Okay, so we're going to graph the parabola, and notice this parabola equation looks a little bit different, and the reason is because it's in vertex/graphing form. So y equals a, so our a is 1, x minus h, so our h is 1, squared, plus k, so our k is negative 16. Notice that the point h, comma k is the vertex. So far we've been dealing with parabolas in standard form, and so now we're going to graph them using graphing form. So the first step of graphing a parabola in graphing form is finding the vertex. So we know the vertex is the point h, comma k, right? So what is h, comma k? Our h was here, and notice in our equation we have a minus h here, and we have a minus sign there. So our h is just 1. It's not negative 1 because there's a minus in the equation. So h is 1, and k plus k, and we have a minus 16, so our k is minus 16. So we know our vertex is the point 1, comma 16. So if you look at a parabola, this point right here is the vertex. Okay, so we found the vertex. The next step, so the step 2, is find the y-intercept. So our y-intercept is wherever our parabola is going to cross the y-axis. So we have our x-axis here and our y-axis here. Notice that if it crosses the x-axis, or the y-axis, I'm sorry, if it crosses through the y-axis, the point that it crosses through means that x is 0. So all we need to do is plug in 0 for x and solve for y. So we have y equals 1 times, we're finding the point of the y-intercept, which means x, the value of x is 0, minus 1, squared, minus 16. So let's use our PEMDAS rules, parentheses first. So 0 minus 1 is negative 1. Okay. What's negative 1 squared? Negative 1 squared is 1, so 1 times 1 minus 16. So y equals 1 times 1 is 1 minus 16. What's 1 minus 16? So we know the point that the parabola crosses the y-axis is at the point negative 15. Let me make sure that's right. I lost it. Well, I lost it. That's okay. Oh, it's over here. Sorry. I just want to make sure I'm not making a mistake. Yep, okay. We did our math right. So y equals negative 15 is going to be the point that the parabola crosses the y-axis, which means x is 0 and y is negative 15. So our y-intercept is 0, negative 15. Okay, now here comes the tough part, which is okay, we can do it, we're smart. We need to find the points where the parabola crosses the x-axis. Notice that if we have a parabola and it opens up, is it going to cross the x-axis or 1 or 2 points? It's going to cross at 2 points, right? If we have a parabola like that. So there's going to be 2 different x values. So we need to take this equation and put it into standard form so that we can factor and solve for our x's. So let's see if we can do it. Y equals, so let me write the next step actually before I continue. That's plural, there's 2. Okay, so let's see if we can put it in standard form so that we can factor. 1 times x minus 1 squared minus 16. So notice this x minus 1 squared means 1 times x minus 1 times x minus 1 minus 16. So I'm going to FOIL this over here. X minus 1 times x minus 1, what does FOIL mean? Means first, outside, inside, last. So multiply the first terms, the outside terms, the inside terms, and the last terms. So our first terms are x times x, that's x squared. Our outside terms are x and negative 1, so x times negative 1 is negative x. Our inside terms are these terms. Negative 1 times x is negative x. And our last terms, which is -1 times -1, is +1. So we get x squared minus x minus x is -2x plus 1. So we're going to replace this chunk, our x minus 1 times x minus 1, with this. So you get y equals 1 times x squared minus 2x plus 1 minus 16. So if you multiply all the terms by 1, sorry, that's my sister's pump. If you multiply all the terms by 1, it's not going to change, right? So we get y equals x squared minus 2x plus 1 minus 16. So this is the only thing we can simplify right now. Y equals x squared minus 2x. 1 minus 16 is -15. And look, we are now in standard form. And we can now factor. So if you need help with factoring, go back and look at module 7. But I'm just going to factor it right now. So if we factor, we get y equals, so it multiplies to -15 and adds to -2. It's going to be a +3 and a -5, right? Because -5 times 3 is -15, and -5 plus 3 is -2. So we need to find the x-intercepts, right? And we factored all this. But if we're finding the x-intercepts, so it's where the parabola crosses this axis, it means that y is what? Y is 0, because it's crossing this where y is 0. So set y equal to 0. So we get, I'm going to move this up. So we're going to set y equals to 0 because we're finding the x-intercepts. So y is 0 when it crosses the x-axis. That means that x plus 3 equals 0, and x minus 5 equals 0. So how do we solve for x here? If we subtract 3, we cancel 3, and we subtract 3. That means that x equals 0 minus 3 is -3. And here, we need to get x by itself. We need to add 5. And x equals +5. 0 plus 5 is 5. Okay, so we found our x-intercepts. There's 2 points, remember. Y is 0 and x is -3. And y is 0 and x is 5. So our x-intercepts are 0, -3, and 0, 5. Okay, so we have enough information to graph our parabola now. We know the vertex is 1, -16, the y-intercept is 0, -15, and the x-intercepts are 0, -3, and 0, +5. So let's go ahead and graph our vertex first. 1, -16. So I made my axis by 2s just so I had enough room. So 1 would be here, and -16 would be right here. 1, -16. Is our vertex. Okay. 0, -15 is where it crosses the y-axis. So we have 0, -15, about right here. And then we have our x-intercepts, 0, -3, and 0, 5. So 0, -3, 0 here is -2, and one more is -3. And then 0, 5. So we have 0 and we're going to go over 5. So there's 2, 4, 5. Okay, so now we just connect the dots. So if I were to draw this up like this, it would look like this.